I'm Ryan. I'm a rainbowfish hobbyist, but trying to dive into some other areas of fish keeping right now as well.
And then, just so folks will know, because obviously I've interacted with you a ton, but where can they find you social media wise?
Mainly on Instagram at Hoon Aquatics, but I will occasionally, maybe like twice a year, post a video on YouTube, but I'm pretty bad at that. Every time I post one, it's just kind of like, hopefully I get into a better habit of posting, and then it doesn't happen, but...
Okay. So what got you into fish keeping? And how long have you been keeping fish?
I've been keeping fish since I was a kid. My mom and I got like a goldfish bowl. It evolved into a 10-gallon tank, these goldfish outgrew a 10-gallon tank, obviously, and then gave those fish to a friend who had a pond, and then got into community fish. Cichlids, big cichlids when I was a kid. Probably shouldn't have done that in a 30-gallon acrylic tank, but then revisited fish coming back after college. Saw the Aquarium Co-op's video on rainbowfish of Gary Lang's fish room tour, and it bit me bad. I think I've kept over 40 species of rainbowfish at one point in time, reduced down to just, I think, 8 species now.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about that, because to me, especially, like in the time that we've known each other, you've been able to breed several species really prolifically, and yet you don't have a massive fish room. I mean, the audience at home can see almost all of your tanks on camera right now. Has it always been this number of tanks, or have you reduced down?
So this 75 used to be a row of 10 gallons.
Okay.
So that made it easier to raise fry and kind of keep species separate. But as I moved towards more of displays, that got scrapped. But I utilize nets a lot of the time just to basically keep smaller fish out of larger fish's mouths. That was kind of my method with breeding pseudomcgills as well, to where as long as the fry don't fit into a larger juvenile's mouth, they can be kept together. Same with the adults, but if it can be eaten, I try to keep that separated out. So even these rainbows over there probably could be let out of the net at this point. The angels would probably eat them. So for their own safety.
Okay. And then let's talk about, a lot of people will probably know you for one very specific fish right now, especially if they've ever listened to me babble on about you. But take me kind of on that part of your journey and how you got toward the top.
Yeah, so I had been bit by that rainbowfish bug, and then I was just scouring the earth for any rare fish I could get. Gary posted just like the snippet of a tail, and I was like, what is that fish? So he let out a little bit more and more information, and I'd already been emailing him, messaging him, will you sell your fish? And he's like, no, they're not producing. And then I was like, okay, how many arms and legs do I need to chop off for some tawa? He's like, all right, well, I guess I'll sell you a couple eggs. And I didn't want to act as if I didn't know what I was doing. I did not know what I was doing at that point in time, but it was like, all right, I want double the number of eggs you just offered. Oh, you're serious? And that's kind of how it began. I got that and Melanotania species moorhead from him, and those were the first rainbowfish I raised from eggs. Gary might be mortified if he ever listens to this, because he's probably like, oh, he must be breeding fish all the time. I was brand new, and that was a fish that was super rewarding, but not a lot of information out there. So it was a learning process. Lost some along the way, but finally got that dialed in.
Okay. And then from there, what has been the species that has, I guess, surprised you the most compared to like maybe the pictures you see online versus having kept them and or bred them?
Well, my personal favorite, and it may not be the most colorful, but it's the Chilathrina species upper tor, and it's just because when you see them in person, they're absolute just gangbusters going crazy. And that activity, the intensity of their head stripe, their pectoral fins that glow yellow, just such a cool fish. But I also want to shout out the Melanitania finis pague, just because when they're on, probably the most just striking rainbow fish I've seen. Just the intensity of the striping, and when they do fire up that blue, it's really, really incredible.
Cool. So, one thing that I think a lot of folks will be able to relate to, you kind of had a little bit of a burnout.
Mm-hmm.
Talk me through the decisions you made with that burnout and where that's brought you to today.
So I knew I was getting to a point where I just wasn't enjoying breeding rainbow fish just because of the long grow out times of 6, 9, even a year for some species, to where I wanted to actually enjoy the fish that I was keeping and not just passing on a 1-inch gray fish. I wanted to be able to enjoy the colors and really sit down and actually enjoy their presence, their colors, their activity, and behavior. I have some community tanks and some that are species-only tanks. I think having both has been something that's kind of something I've enjoyed. And I think burnout is probably natural, but just reducing to the fish that I enjoy the most. So the fish that I have now are ones that are either new or ones that are my pure favorites.
Okay. And with most recently, because you're still breeding fish kind of actively, especially the upper Tora and the Tawa,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a new fish outside of rainbow fish that you've gotten into. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I did get a fish in from Sweden. It pretty much has been not in the hobby whatsoever. It occurs in Guyana, so far up the Pataro River that like commercial collections would just financially not make a lot of sense. But there were a couple hobbyist collections, Mike Wise, notably from the U.S., along with Tom C., I think from Finland, but some Swedish collectors also went there, bred them, I believe. There were 2 gentlemen in Sweden. Those were the first confirmed spawns of that species. And that's the Ivanacara bimaculata, which is one that I did get from the Swedish collectors, and it's an incredible species. Very, very vibrant, contrasting colors. And it's similar to its cousin, the zebra acara, which Atacata is what more people may be familiar with. So when I do post that fish, there is confusion of... I also have this one. It's similar species, but this one is super cool. I believe I have the first U.S. spawn, or at least the first reported one in the U.S., and super exciting. They're kind of built like a VW bus, but they're chonkers. But
Cool. So, in what you've been doing, you've kind of diversified a little bit in what you're keeping between some species of angels, you have some pistos, you have this new kind of cousin to the Acara, you've got plecos. What's the thing that separates a fish from something I really want to try to breed versus something that I'm just keeping for personal enjoyment for you?
I think I don't have the patience to breed tetras, so that's off the list right away, but I kind of want to breed everything I touch, and that's kind of maybe to my own fault, to where I have this obsession where it's like, if I buy this, I'm going to become a millionaire breeding all these baby fish. It's not going to work, but that's the headcanon there.
Okay. And lastly, I'm going to have to ask this because if I don't, I will get absolutely murdered in the comments. Do you sell fish online?
I try not to. So I advertise that I don't ship fish anymore, but on a fish like the Ivanacara bimaculata, just for the good of the hobby, I may be open to distributing that one, for sure.
But you do, for folks that are in the Northwest, every once in a while you do take some of your fish into...
I've sold to the aquarium co-op And I also have brought fish into Denny's Pet World, but very seldom, few and far between. But I also sell privately, locally as well.
Yeah.
Just it's easier on the fish. You don't have to figure out the logistics of shipping and that added cost.
Okay. So there you go, folks in the Northwest. you have a shot. Otherwise, a little tough. I'll ask you kind of one extra question that goes along the line of, now that you've spawned the kind of cousin of the zebra acara, do you have another fish in mind that's kind of your next, this is what I want to work with fish?
Probably its cousin, the Adacatas, just since that is a blackwater species that's bred in around the bimaculata's at 4.5 pH, so super low. And I believe that Adacatas also need to be bred in low pH as well. I don't know if I want to set up another blackwater tank at this point, so that might be down the road. Just maybe when I have an RO unit, because water changing with distilled water, not too fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for giving me some time, because a ton of your fish are just awesome. And I totally agree with you. The upper tour are probably underappreciated, because having seen pictures online, they're nowhere near as amazing as even some of your juveniles look in person, because they show color pretty early on quite a lot of those fish, which is not super common with a lot of the rainbows.
Right.
But just some of your setups are really awesome. This guy just refuses to stop being an all-star.
Yeah.
And he's lights out. And also just huge, which is fantastic. But yeah, I mean, folks will have, while you're talking, a ton of B-roll of your fish. Thank you so much for your time, Ryan. And one more time for YouTube land, where can they find you?
Instagram at Hoon Aquatics. I do try to post multiple times a week, but sometimes life gets in the way.
Cool. Well, Ryan, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming over.